shake it like you know it, baby. Come on and dance with me.
Does working on your game ever feel like you're eating dry, stale bread? You're bored, tired, and in desperate need of some water. If so, then you're just like me when it comes to working on longer projects. It's easy to get burnt out on your game, so how do you keep it fresh? Well, I recently encountered this problem with my game, Dewdrop Dynasty. And today we'll talk about what I did to overcome it. So welcome back to another Dewdrop devlog, and let's get started. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, Dewdrop is a bug-themed Metroidvania that I'm trying to make that's inspired by games like Cave Story, Pikmin, and even Super Paper Mario. Basically, the premise of the game is that you're a bee named Po Lin, and on the way back of one of Po's missions, he ends up getting caught in a storm and injuring himself and losing his wings. And the point of the game is that you're trying to make your way back home. The problem is, Po ends up running into a lot of different challenges along the way. Now, I've been working on Dewdrop Dynasty for the past year or so, and I've recreated it a couple times because it just wasn't exactly how I wanted it. Really, the goal of the game was to be this fun, kind of story-based adventure Metroidvania, and I ended up making it too big and too grand and trying too many things. And somewhat recently, I found myself falling into the same boat again. While I was working on the game, I just wanted to keep adding more features and having that scope creep that we're all notorious for. And I found myself not really enjoying working on the game or even playing it. It was kind of boring and I just didn't know why. And then I realized what I was missing. I needed to give breathing room for the project. Even if it didn't turn out the exact way I thought it would, that's completely okay. Now, specifically what I'm talking about in Dewdrop was the traveling mechanics, or just the interaction with the world. Now, wandering around and just walking around aimlessly just to find a boss isn't the most entertaining gameplay. So I thought, how could we liven it up? And in the last devlog, you'll notice for the pits, I added spikes and a lot more platforming. It actually improved the gameplay so much, and I found myself really enjoying it. But even with that, I found that it was hard for me to want to play through the game. What was the motivation for me to actually beat the levels and fight the boss? What is the reason? And here's where I think a lot of people get caught up and where their games become stale. And that's thinking of your core gameplay. Now, for a game like a Metroidvania, the goal is to travel, to explore, to find new items, to fight enemies, to fight bosses. And if you just have a character that runs around and shoots a gun, but you don't have those other elements of exploration, then it's gonna feel lacking. And like I just said with Dewdrop, I didn't want to just make a Metroidvania. I wanted to make this small little Metroidvania game that had humor and story elements. So I took a day to take a step back and kind of figure out what I wanted to accomplish with Dewdrop. So after taking that time to myself just to think about the project, I actually felt way more motivated. So with that said, I would like to announce a new location in the game. It doesn't have an official title yet, but basically it's a underwater ruins. Now, how does a bee breathe underwater? That's for all you botanists to debate down below in the comments. But I just thought it was really fun to shake it up. Instead of it just being underground and then you go to another underground place, already this location has given me a ton of ideas of how you'll interact with the enemies, the locations, the bosses. I just think it's gonna be a really cool location to explore, and it was much better than my original idea, which was like a cavern or something. So going back to my problem why I felt Dewdrop was lacking motivation, I realized I needed more story. Games like Cave Story and Bobo Robot were fun and they had a plot line that pushed you to go forward. Maybe this is because I've been playing too many Paper Mario games recently, but I also really wanted to add humor and add some funny NPCs. So with that in mind, I've actually worked on revisiting the pits. Instead of it being like this micro tutorial area, I thought, why don't I just make it a full location in the game? And why don't I give it some more lore and characters and having a little bit more storyline than you get gun and you shoot boy. So with that in mind, I decided to make the pits a cheese mine. Because if Baxton's gonna be the Lord of Cheeseguard, there's gotta be something in Cheeseguard to guard. I also thought it'd be funny if you have a bunch of bugs and other creatures that are prisoners here, and that there's these little mice prison guards called Rotos. This led me to drastically improving the dialogue system. I made it so now for every single message, you can pick the voice, the sound of the voice, you can pick where the arrow is pointing, you can even pick effects like zooming in and camera shakes. For the first time, Dewdrop is actually starting to feel like a final game, where it feels like there's a story and something to work towards. Now, as always, I don't want to show too much because I want to save it for when you actually play the game, but let's just say this gave me a great opportunity to write a bunch of dialogue, and I can't wait for you guys to play it. If you're still struggling and you feel like your game is stale, then really what you need to do is breathe life into it again. Take a step back and think about why you're making this game in the first place. If there's a location that you've been working on and you feel like has to be a certain way, maybe think about it a little bit differently. I'm not saying adding more to your workload. I'm saying maybe taking some away. Maybe if you think this next location's gotta be a jungle, what if it's underwater? What if it's on the moon? By allowing yourself that flexibility, it makes the project feel less like a job and more like a creative process. Now, I know I don't have a ton to show in this update, and that's because most of the stuff I've been working on is behind the scenes. If you would like to support me making these videos, I actually just created a Patreon. By supporting me over there, it helps me make these videos on a regular basis and get one step closer to my dream, which is making a full-time studio. So if you'd like to see all the perks and rewards or read about it more, make sure to click the link down below. If you have any thoughts or comments on how to keep your game fresh or features and things that could be added to Dewdrop, make sure to leave a comment down below. Also, I just want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. I appreciate it so much. You guys are amazing, and I couldn't do any of this without you. Anyway, that's it for this video. I will see you next time on another game dev adventure.